I'm Bob Coleman, and we're talking Main Street from the small business lenders who help it grow. Live from Florida. I'm in Florida. Lance and John, good to see you. I'm going to start with you, Lance. You were in Florida last week at the Florida Lenders Conference. You were one of the speakers, and I did not get a chance for you to do a report from the field, so this is your chance. You're a couple days late. Give us all the hot news that was released last week in Florida from SBA.
Well, probably the biggest noteworthy item was the size of the conference. Been to the Flagel Conference multiple years, guys. The attendance at this year's Flagel Conference was the largest in the history of the conference. There are a lot of great lenders there. SBA had a full complement of people. Eddie Redford, John Miller, and others were there. John Miller always seems to make a huge announcement like he did at the Rural Lender Conference in Puerto Rico. So, guys, I was all keyed up and ready with my, ready to type in the information, but John just gave a good recap, and he talked a lot about the new SBA processes, but there was no major announcement in terms of the way we're doing things at SBA. A lot of good discussion between SBA and the lenders about implementation of the SOP 5010-7. But guys, sadly enough, there's no major announcement that came out of the Flagel Conference.
Well, sadly, that's probably news by itself.
It's a good thing. I had this discussion with a large number of lenders, and in my breakout session, the SOP 5010-7 looks like it's going to continue to be what we use as a guideline for underwriting and closing SBA loans. So let's get comfortable with it, guys.
Well, very good, Lance. I appreciate your man in the field report. Hey, John, thanks for joining us. I know there's a bunch of stuff coming out of Washington. First of all, what are you working on?
Well, I have a story that's on American Banker today. I'm on the page now, looking at SBA 2023 numbers. I know they're not the final numbers, that there's a week to go, but the direction of things, the state of affairs is pretty clear at this state in the game. And the thing that struck me, and the point I tried to make in this article, was this year the institutions, the lenders that had the big gains, most of the big gains happened to be not only some of the biggest lenders in the program, but some of the biggest banks in the country. And by that, I mean three of the ones I featured: Huntington, TD, and Bank of America, that is working on making a major leap. We talked about that last year in an article I wrote almost exactly a year ago, a little more than a year ago. And they did another big increase this year. They're at, by this time, they've probably surpassed $400 million. As of the numbers Friday, they were at $394 million. They were at $201 million for the year last year. So you can see the progression, and they're targeting $1 billion next year between 7A and 504. I don't know exactly how big their 504 production is, but it's not on the level of 7A. So the lion's share of that would likely be 7A.
John, give me your projected top five. Who's going to be number one?
I think next year, the Bank of America, one thing that their head of SBA said to me is they want to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
They may get there. They're Bank of America, but I don't think it'll be next year. I think you will see Live Oak continue to be number one. The interesting thing will be who will be number two. Right now, it looks it's sort of neck and neck between Huntington, which had, and we reported this, a big increase in the number of loans, but they've also had a major increase in dollar volume, and Newtek, that has had a nice increase as a bank in their first year as a bank. It hasn't been on the level of Huntington, but they've had a very good year. So you've got those two institutions really vying for the number two slot. Those are the only three, by the way: Newtek, Bank of America, Newtek, Huntington, and Live Oak. that are surpassed the billion mark. But I think, Lance, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but this is the first year that there's $3 billion institutions.
I think you're right. Now you're right, John.
Yeah.
I remember it was big news when someone hit $1 billion. Now we got 3. So that's very good.
Yeah, and maybe that'll be an interesting thing is how many more will we have next year? You know, can Bank of America vault to $1 billion? You know, they've got a long way to go. They would have to more than double, but once again, they have the resources. To put behind that. Then you have some others. ReadyCap is the biggest non-bank lender, you've one institution too, really, that we should keep our eye on. First Internet, close to a $5 billion bank. They are just about 400 million. They're over 400 million. So they've only been SBA lending for 5 years. Actually not even 5 years. So late 2019 is when they got in the program. 4 years.
John, you glitched on me. Can you repeat the name, please?
First Internet Bank
out of Indiana, right?
Out of Indiana. So 4 years they've gone from 0 to 440 million.
Good.
Bay First. I struggle. I keep wanting to say Bayview, but Bay First. They've gone also, from come out of nowhere, really, that I can see to be. I think they're the 6th largest lender now. Well over $400 million of loans. So I think it may look a lot like that. It'll be just interesting to see who will come up, which institution is really has something planned, big plan that we don't know about yet. That's going to come up. Will it be Byline, perhaps? Some of these major ones. But my guess is that there may be another, at least one more or 2 more next year that will be at $1 billion. So
awesome.
Maybe there'll be 5 next year.
I wanted to ask you, John, I got asked this question a half a dozen times at Flagon. SBA supposedly, this would be big news, is supposed to announce their 3 new SPLCs. And my understanding was they were going to do it by the 30th of September. Has anybody heard anything about that?
No, they are touting nice gains in this is, we've talked about this, the irony of this, as they make these major changes designed to, in large part, to increase small dollar lending and increase the amount of capital available to minorities. The lenders that are in the program now are doing a pretty good job of just that. They put out a press release, I guess it was Thursday, touting the big increase in loans to African Americans, and wasn't able to talk physically to them, but they provided a statement for our story talking about the increases in loans of $150,000 or less. So that's
which is very, very important for the program.
Yes. Yeah. So that's being done, and you can see it in the average loan size. It's under $480,000, actually under $475,000. Ticked up a little in the last few days, but just a few $1,000s. In fiscal 2022, it was close to $540,000. You can see the progress been made, so just with the way things are, they're making big strides to achieving their goals. They always talk about, more to be done, more work to be done. No one ever sets a baseline of what they would like to be done or have done or where they would like to get, but they've come a long way already.
John, too early to talk about a potential government shutdown?
I probably know as much as or less than you all. I know that there's been talk because the Republican majority in the House is so slim. Only a few defections can really roil the waters, and that's what's happening. But I guess they have to perhaps at some point think that their leverage is very limited. Maybe they can.
Look, what we're going to do editorially is we're talking about very briefly, but if it's more of an issue, we'll talk about it more on Friday. But Lance, there are procedures in place. Real quick, my editorial comment is, as an SBA lender, don't worry about it because there's a procedure in place. Lance, you want to address that?
Well, the SBA allows for interim financing to be taken out with an SBA loan. It would take an unprecedented length of government shutdown to cause an issue with that. I think most SBA lenders probably, if there's a shutdown, will kind of pause for a moment. Because I was sharing with John before we came on the show, when I worked at SBA, I was actually part of a government shutdown for a few days. It looked like SBA lending or SBA was going to be shut down. Unfortunately, I was an essential employee, so I had to report to work, unlike many of my team members. But, we were only shut down for 3 or 4 days that time. There are rules in place that would allow you to do interim financing and then take it out with an SBA loan. Let's go to the SOP.
Yeah, and we're going to, I'm sorry, Lance, please.
I'm sorry, just go to the SOP 5010-7 and go in the search bar and type interim, and you'll find what you need to know.
Well, also, Delaney is writing an article on that for next week for Coleman's underwriting and closing newsletter. So we will also be addressing that. But there are specific things to follow. As long as you follow them, you'll be okay. As long as it doesn't go over 90 days. If it goes over around 90 days, all bets are off anyway.
If we have a government shutdown for 90 days, we'll have much bigger problems.
Very good.
John,
what else you working on, John? Go ahead.
I was just going to say the longest is 35 days. So hopefully it won't even approach that. I just some other interesting end of year stories. I like to hopefully get a chance to catch up with New Tech and ask about their first year as a bank, and they haven't seemed to have broken stride. Just another good year there on paper at least, and wanted to catch up. There's a lender. It's a fintech. It's an African American led fintech, and all of a sudden I am blanking on the name, but they obtained New Tech's SBLC license, and I know they have Lendistry, and that escaped me. I looked at the rankings, and as of the 21st, they had made in less than a year, less than 12 months, I think more like 9 months, close over 80 7A loans. And I know that's not, that doesn't put them near the top, but it obviously shows that they are, they're getting very acclimated to the program very quickly. So I'd like to see what they have in plan for next year, because there hasn't been a lot of on the institution side, on the lending side, there hasn't been a lot of involvement from black banks and other African American led institutions. So this is a little bit new for SBA in that respect.
Very, a lot of positive stories, and that's good to see that. We're going to follow up with some of those people and get them on the show. Definitely on that. That's a great idea. Real quick, Lance. So given the background of Flagel, how important is your, you still get, Lance, where are you on Thursday, Lance?
I'm going to check and see if Caesar's Palace is pager friendly.
Pager friendly. Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
I am going to be giving a presentation on SBA lending at the National Alliance of Commercial Loan Brokers meeting in Las Vegas. Really excited and looking forward to spending some time. Also, Bob, the keynote speaker is George Foreman. I would love to get a picture with George Foreman. But
well, Lance, you are filling in for me, and I appreciate that. I've spoken there since they started about 9-10 years ago, and I can't make it this year, so I know the audience will appreciate a little change of pace. So good for you.
I'm excited to be there. And
So I'm going to wrap up, given the no news of Flagel, how important is your webinar next week on 5057 servicing and liquidation of SBA 7A loans?
well, servicing remains important, guys, because, you know, in my discussion with lenders throughout the country, particularly the Florida group, every lender has more challenged SBA borrowers than they had in the past several years. So understanding how to properly service your SBA loan is so important. And guys, we get to talk about the new 8-tab package, the universal purchase package during this webinar. So please get signed up, understand how to service your SBA loans according to the new SOP 5057.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining us today for Coleman Report Live and for supporting America's Main Street, one entrepreneur at a time.
Have a great Monday.